Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So yeah, today I wanted to talk about this highly publicized George Zimmerman case. The case is coming to a close. The prosecution and defense team have already done closing arguments, so we should be getting a verdict any day now. Hell, we might even get a verdict before I even finish uploading this video. But regardless of that, I just wanted to give my thoughts on, why I believe George Zimmerman will most likely walk away a free man. He's being charged right now of second-degree murder and a lesser charge of manslaughter. He definitely won't get second-degree murder, which could possibly land him in jail for life. And I'll get deeper into that, explaining why I truly believe that. But before I even get into the actual details of the case, I want to explain to you guys why I'm even making a video about this. For those of you guys who watch my videos, it's obvious I have a love for boxing. But outside of boxing, do you guys know what my favorite channel to watch is? My favorite channel to watch is the Investigation Discovery Channel. Can't get enough of it. Right now, my DVR is set to probably record about 75% of the shows that come on that channel, right? My whole DVR is filled up with the majority of boxing and investigation discovery TV shows, right? I love reality crime shows. From the whodunits, all the most sadistic crimes and murders, and seeing the real victims, the real suspects, not that fake CSI shit, right? This is the real deal. And if you watch these shows on a regular basis, or if you just watched it a couple times, I think one of the first things you'll notice, if you didn't already notice like I did, is by just watching the shows, you'll find out, or you'll realize that murder and crimes, etc., is not based on race, contrary to popular belief, right? I mean, you could just watch these shows and you could look at the race and the color and the nationality of all the people that are committing crimes, and you will find that out very shortly, okay? I bring this up because, unfortunately, for everyone who gets on the internet and reads comments, etc., you'll find out that almost no matter what the video is about, what the topic is about on YouTube or a blog, you will almost always see that topic end up being attached to race. People will always play the race card, right? So even though watching these crime shows that I always watch clearly suggests that people don't commit crimes because of the color of their skin, the country that we live in sometimes, not everyone, but a certain percentage of people, a certain, group of people, they will try to base things or crimes and other things on race, crimes, stereotypes, etc., right? Now I know you of course you're gonna have a small percentage of people who's gonna send me messages. Damn, Dante, why you gotta be talking about race? Why are you bringing up race and etc.? But you gotta be realistic with yourself. Like I said, the people who send me these messages, they read the same comments on YouTube that I read, right? I mean, come on, man. You are not that fucking naive. And you ain't that goddamn blind. And you ain't that damn illiterate, because I know you can read. We see the comments every fucking day, right? I mean, we're in a boxing forum, a place that has nothing to do with race, but every now and then you see the shit all the time. People want to play the race card. You know what I'm saying? Start dropping the N-bomb. Start dropping all these other racial slurs that has nothing to do with the topic. But then as soon as I start bringing up a race issue, now the people who've been reading these racial slurs all the time, now they want to say, hey, man, why are you bringing up race? Bringing up the topic racism is really hard to talk about, especially when you're talking to a diverse crowd of all different races and nationalities, because if you have not experienced it firsthand, you really aren't in position to talk about it, right? I mean, for example, if you got a guy right here with, 20 tattoos, and you got a guy standing over here who has 0 tattoos, who do you think I'm going to ask how it feels to get a tattoo? Does it hurt? I mean, am I going to pass out, et cetera, blah, 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 right? Do you think I'm going to ask the guy who has 0 tattoos? Of course not, because he has no experience of getting tattoos, right? So what does this have to do with the George Zimmerman case? I'll tell you what it has to do with the George Zimmerman case. Regardless if people want to admit it or not, you have so many people who look at this case and they base it on race. I mean, if you don't believe me? I mean, you could just look at the news. You could look at some of the witnesses, some of the people who got on the news and gave their opinion on the case. I think it was one of George Zimmerman's neighbors who said some crazy shit like, hey, man, if you grow corn, you're going to get corn. He says some shit like that, right? Basically, the point he was making is, if you put black people in the neighborhood, you should expect something negative out of it. You should expect crime, et cetera, et cetera. So forget the point that George Zimmerman, forget the point that Trayvon Martin, he had never been convicted of a crime. He had never been arrested before. And surprisingly enough, George Zimmerman is the one that had been arrested previously before. So anyway, let me get back to the point that I was just previously making. Crime is not based on what color you are, okay? You do not just commit crimes because you're white, black, Latino, Asian, etc., right? I'll tell you what crime is based on. Crime is largely based on money, greed, love, hate, and respect. It could be argued in that order, but money, no doubt, is the root of all evil. So there's no doubt that money is the number one reason why the majority of people would commit some of the most heinous, ridiculous murders, right? That's obviously not to say that all murders are committed because of money. We already know we have sickos and all kind of other reasons. I'm saying the vast majority of murders, they happen because it is based on money. You don't believe me? Let's just take 2 different scenarios. Let's say on one side of town, you got this guy living in the hood. He's holding up a liquor store, right? He's robbing the liquor store, okay? Now on the other side of town, you have a guy living in this beautiful gated community, Pleasantville, right? I mean, he has a great job. He has a wife, kids, BMW parked outside. But for some reason, this man ends up murdering his wife in cold blood, right? Matter of fact, the reason why he does it, to be found out later, is he did it because he wanted to collect on a life insurance policy, right? Now, what do these 2 criminals have in common? They both committed these crimes for money and greed, right? But see, George Zimmerman, he falls in a different category. You see, he's not like the majority of people. He didn't commit this crime for money. Zimmerman, he committed this crime for personal hate, right? It's a big difference. So anyway, let me go ahead and get into why I truly believe George Zimmerman will not be charged for second-degree murder. Okay, in order for you to come back with a second-degree murder charge, you would have to prove that George Zimmerman, he did this out of ill will, hatred, and under a depraved mind, right? Now, and I find this very interesting because if you go all the way back to the 911 call that Zimmerman placed, there's a brief moment where he says under his breath, which it obviously sounds like he says, "fucking coons," right? And for a couple weeks before Zimmerman was actually charged, everyone was confirming it. He said fucking coons, etc., etc. Now that comment alone would prove ill will and hatred. But for some reason, the Florida state attorney, Angela Corey, is who's the one who hired the whole prosecution team, etc., etc. When she announced that she was going to take this case and she was going to try second-degree murder, in her statement, she says, by the way, he didn't say fucking coons, he said fucking punks, right? Now, this is funny to me because, first off, the word coon and the word punk, they don't even rhyme, all right? And if you guys go back, you could watch you could listen to the recording on YouTube. You can listen to the entire recording of George Zimmerman calling the police. And I can guarantee you, he didn't say punks. Okay? Now let's make this very clear, guys. Florida is the South, okay? And in this little town in Florida, the chief of police and the whole police team, they came out, found a victim shot dead on the ground with a shot to the heart. They take the suspect, George Zimmerman, to the police station. They get his statements. They take his word for it, and they let him go. All right? So basically, the police department and the chief of police, they were judge and jury. They were gonna shut the case right there, okay? But then that's when the media came in and they said this doesn't look right. That's when neighbors and everyone else started to come out and say this doesn't look right. So they asked the chief of police. They say, hey man, what's going on with this? Aren't you guys going to look deeper into this? And the chief of police, his statements were basically, look, this is a self-defense situation, and until I get proof of otherwise, we're not going to do anything else about it. But listen to what he says. Until I get proof otherwise, he says that, right? But yet at the same time, this is the same man that's concealing the recorded 911 tapes. Okay? Does that make any sense to you? You're going to sit over here knowing that you have evidence right on these tapes, but yet you don't want to release these tapes to the media, and at the same time you're going to say until I get other proof otherwise, right? Do you guys know that the entire Sanford Police Department refused to release the 911 tapes to the media? Do you guys know that it took the mayor of the town to release those tapes? It was the mayor of the town. The mayor of the town, he finally contacted the police department and said, hey guys, we need to release this. I mean, we don't have anything to hide, right? Those were his exact words when he was talking to the police department. And once these 911 tapes got released, guess what the chief of police, who said he wasn't going to convict or try to charge George Zimmerman, did? You know what he did, guys? He resigned. And we know now why he resigned. Because he knew damn well that he was trying to conceal evidence that would most likely make George Zimmerman look completely guilty. All right? So I don't trust Florida, and no one really should. Florida is also the state where Casey Anthony, she murdered her own daughter in cold blood, and she got off. Okay, so that's another one of the reasons why I don't believe. It's hard to believe that if they're not going to charge somebody like Casey Anthony for murder, are they really going to charge someone who claims to be neighborhood watch, who killed a little black kid? It's hard to believe, isn't it? I truly believe the Florida state attorney, Angela Corey, who took this case, she purposely replaced the word coons with punks, so there would not be any proof that this was done out of ill will and hatred. That word alone would have proved that this was ill will and hatred. Therefore, he would have easily been convicted second-degree murder. Also, look at the jury. Almost an all-white jury. How come they don't have a black person on the jury? I mean, you would think that this case would be a more diverse type jury. So these are the many reasons why I don't believe Trayvon Martin will get justice, and George Zimmerman will most likely walk away a free man. I'm probably going to drop a second video on this because I'm out of time and I have more to say, but I'm on to the next one.